I want you to imagine this as a confession, something told in secret with a hint of excitement and anticipation. Picture me leaning in close, my voice low and inviting as I recount this experience for you. Let me tell you about this moment when everything seemed to glow with possibility. The way I felt, my heart racing, my breath quickening, was unlike anything I'd known before. I'm going to share this with you just as it happened, in every vivid detail, letting the warmth of my voice wrap around you, making you feel like you're right there beside me. Imagine this as a story told by candlelight, a secret shared between friends or lovers, or even just with yourself. My tone is warm, friendly, almost conspiratorial. I want you to feel the excitement building as I speak, to sense the thrill in every word. I'll read the entire text, not missing a single detail, letting the emotions rise and fall just like the rhythm of a confession. So listen closely. Let me take you on this journey, step by step, moment by moment. I'll keep my voice soft and inviting, but beneath it all, you'll hear the excitement, the kind that makes your pulse quicken and your imagination run wild. This is my confession, my story, and I'm sharing it with you, completely and honestly, in every delicious detail. What would you do if the people who should love you most used your name to build a lie that made you the family's cautionary tale, the one who failed, the one they had to pretend to help, while secretly they mocked you to everyone who would listen? What if this lie wasn't just told to a few people, but to everyone, to your entire community, painting you as a pathetic, homeless failure, when the truth was something completely different? It's a level of betrayal that cuts deeper than a knife, because it attacks not just your pride, but your very existence, your identity. It's an unimaginable cruelty, a silent war waged against you by the very people you called family. And what if, while they were busy telling everyone you were sleeping on park benches, you were actually doing something that would change not only your life, but theirs forever? Something they would never, ever see coming. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about reclaiming your narrative, about silent victories, and the power of a truth that unfolds in its own time. Stay with me until the end, because this story will stay with you long after it's over.
Let me tell you about this moment when everything seemed to glow with possibility. The way I felt, my heart racing, my breath quickening, was unlike anything I'd known before. I'm going to share this with you just as it happened, in every vivid detail, letting the warmth of my voice wrap around you, making you feel like you're right there beside me. Imagine this as a story told by candlelight, a secret shared between friends or lovers or even just with yourself. My tone is warm, friendly, almost conspiratorial. I want you to feel the excitement building as I speak, to sense the thrill in every word. I'll read the entire text, not missing a single detail, letting the emotions rise and fall just like the rhythm of a confession. So, listen closely. Let me take you on this journey, step by step, moment by moment. I'll keep my voice soft and inviting, but beneath it all, you'll hear the excitement, the kind that makes your pulse quicken and your imagination run wild. This is my confession, my story, and I'm sharing it with you, completely and honestly, in every delicious detail. For as long as I can remember, I was the black sheep of the family. Not because I was a rebel or because I did something wrong, but because my parents decided I was. My older sister, Sarah, was the golden child, straight A's, perfect behavior, and everything my parents could ever want. I was the opposite. I was a dreamer, an artist, someone who didn't fit into the conventional box they'd built for us. My grades were average, I preferred sketching over studying, and I'd rather spend my time exploring the woods behind our house than at some fancy dinner party. This created a chasm between us, a quiet distance that grew with every passing year. They never said it out loud, but their actions spoke volumes. I was the one who was always corrected, always judged, always a disappointment. My parents' disdain for me wasn't loud or aggressive. It was a slow, subtle erosion of my self-worth. It was in the way they'd sigh when I showed them my drawings, or the way they'd compare me to Sarah in front of our relatives. "He's just not as motivated," my mother would say, with a sad shake of her head. "We worry about his future," my father would add, a look of faux concern on his face. Over time, these small cuts added up, wearing me down until I started to believe their narrative. Maybe I was a disappointment. Maybe I wasn't cut out for success. I started to internalize their words, their looks, their quiet disappointment. After college, I made the decision to move out and chase my dreams on my own terms. I wanted to start fresh, away from the weight of their expectations. I moved to a different state, took on a couple of freelance design jobs, and lived a simple life. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I was finally happy, finally feeling like I was in control of my own destiny. I didn't make a lot of money, but I was building something, brick by brick. I'd call them every now and then, but the conversations were always the same. "When are you going to get a real job? Don't you miss having a stable life?" The underlying message was always the same: "You're failing, and we told you so." A couple of years passed, and my business started to take off. I started getting bigger clients, my income grew, and I was finally able to live comfortably. I bought a small apartment, paid off my student loans, and was able to travel for the first time in my life. I was proud of what I'd built, and I wanted to share my success with my parents. I called them excited, ready to tell them all about it. "Mom, I got a big contract with a major company. I'm doing really well." But their reaction wasn't what I'd hoped for. "That's nice, dear, but we just saw a report about the economy. Freelance work is so unstable. You should really consider moving back home and getting a real job." Their skepticism turned into something darker when they started telling people I was struggling. They'd tell our relatives and family friends that I was barely making it, that I was going through a difficult phase, and that they were so worried about my future. The lies started small, a gentle exaggeration of my circumstances, but it grew with every passing conversation. They needed to maintain their narrative, the one where I was the failure and they were the concerned, long-suffering parents. It was a twisted form of control, a way to keep me in a box, to keep me from ever truly succeeding in their eyes. I tried to confront them about it, but they'd just deny it, telling me I was overthinking things. They'd say, "We just want the best for you," as if their lie was some act of parental love. But I knew the truth. I knew they were using my supposed failure to make themselves look better, to justify their favoritism towards my sister, and to reinforce their belief that they were always right. The distance between us grew even larger, and I began to see them not as loving parents, but as two people who were more concerned with their reputation than with my happiness.
Let me tell you about this moment, when everything seemed to glow with possibility. The way I felt, my heart racing, my breath quickening, was unlike anything I'd known before. I'm going to share this with you, just as it happened, in all vivid detail, letting the warmth of my voice wrap around you, making you feel like you're right there beside me. Imagine this as a story told by candlelight, a secret shared between friends or lovers, or even just with yourself. My tone is warm, friendly, almost conspiratorial. I want you to feel the excitement building as I speak, to sense the thrill in every word.
I'll read the entire text, not missing a single detail, letting the emotions rise and fall, just like the rhythm of a confession. So listen closely. Let me take you on this journey, step by step, moment by moment. I'll keep my voice soft and inviting, but beneath it all, you'll hear the excitement, the kind that makes your pulse quicken and your imagination run wild. This is my confession, my story, and I'm sharing it with you, completely and honestly, in every delicious detail.
Let me tell you about this moment, when everything seemed to glow with possibility. The way I felt, my heart racing, my breath quickening, was unlike anything I'd known before. I'm going to share this with you just as it happened, in every vivid detail, letting the warmth of my voice wrap around you, making you feel like you're right there beside me. Imagine this as a story told by candlelight, a secret shared between friends or lovers, or even just with yourself. My tone is warm, friendly, almost conspiratorial. I want you to feel the excitement building as I speak, to sense the thrill in every word. I'll read the entire text, not missing a single detail, letting the emotions rise and fall just like the rhythm of a confession. So listen closely. Let me take you on this journey, step by step, moment by moment. I'll keep my voice soft and inviting, but beneath it all, you'll hear the excitement, the kind that makes your pulse quicken and your imagination run wild. This is my confession, my story, and I'm sharing it with you, completely and honestly, in every delicious detail. The day of the big reveal was a complete accident. It wasn't planned, wasn't orchestrated, but it was perfect. My parents were hosting a summer barbecue, a big event they threw every year for all their friends and family. Everyone was there, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and all of their family friends. I knew I couldn't miss this one. I had to be there. I had to face them, to face the lie they'd built around me. I needed to see their faces when the truth came out. So I got a haircut, put on my best suit, and drove my car to their house, parking it a few blocks away so they wouldn't see it. As soon as I walked through the door, my mother pulled me aside. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, her eyes wide with panic. "I didn't tell anyone you were coming. I told everyone you were still, you know." I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. It wasn't concern. It was pure, unadulterated fear of being caught in her own lie. My father walked over, his face a mask of annoyance. "You should have called first," he said, not even bothering to greet me. "We're in the middle of a story here." It was clear what story they were telling. They tried to keep me hidden, to keep me away from their guests. They introduced me to a few people as my son, but quickly changed the subject when they asked how I was doing. They would whisper, "He's getting back on his feet," or "It's a long process, but we're helping him." I just stood there, a quiet observer of their charade, my heart a mixture of anger, hurt, and a strange sense of calm. I knew my moment was coming. I knew that the truth was about to set me free, and it was going to be glorious. If this story has touched you in some way, if you feel a connection to this journey of silent resilience, please go ahead and hit that like button right now. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living your truth loudly and unapologetically. Let's get back to the story. The climax of the day arrived in the form of a conversation between my father and a family friend named Mark. Mark was asking my father about my supposed hard times, and my father, in his usual dramatic fashion, started to tell him the story. "He's been through a lot," my father said, shaking his head. "He's had to sleep in his car, can you believe that? We're so worried about him, but we're trying our best to help him." My father's voice was full of fake concern, his face a perfect picture of a caring, compassionate parent. He was reveling in his own lie.
I couldn't take it anymore. I walked over to them, a quiet confidence in my step. "Dad," I said, my voice low and calm. He looked at me, a flash of annoyance in his eyes. "What is it?" he said, his tone impatient. "I just wanted to correct you," I said, my voice getting a little louder now. "I haven't had to sleep in my car. In fact, I haven't slept in my car in years." My father's eyes widened. "Son, what are you talking about? We'll talk about this later." He tried to dismiss me, to change the subject, but I wasn't having it. "No," I said, my voice now strong and steady. "Let's talk about it now. Let's talk about the truth." I took a deep breath and looked directly at Mark. "The truth is," I said, "that I haven't been homeless. I'd been working hard, building a business, and doing very well for myself. In fact, I've been so successful that a year ago I was able to buy my own house." My father and mother both stared at me, their faces pale with shock. "And the house I bought is the one next to them, Arthur's house." I pointed to the house next to my parents. A silence, thick and heavy, fell over the entire backyard. Everyone was staring, their eyes moving from me to the house next door, and then back to my parents' faces, which were now a mix of disbelief, horror, and pure, unadulterated shame. The lie they had built for years, the narrative they had so carefully crafted, had just been obliterated in one single powerful sentence.
Let me tell you about this moment when everything seemed to glow with possibility. The way I felt, my heart racing, my breath quickening, was unlike anything I'd known before. I'm going to share this with you just as it happened, in every vivid detail, letting the warmth of my voice wrap around you, making you feel like you're right there beside me. Imagine this as a story told at candlelight, a secret shared between friends or lovers or even just with yourself. My tone is warm, friendly, almost conspiratorial. I want you to feel the excitement building as I speak, to sense the thrill in every word. I'll read the entire text, not missing a single detail, letting the emotions rise and fall, just like the rhythm of a confession. So listen closely. Let me take you on this journey, step by step, moment by moment. I'll keep my voice soft and inviting, but beneath it all, you'll hear the excitement, the kind that makes your pulse quicken and your imagination run wild. This is my confession, my story, and I'm sharing it with you, completely and honestly, in every delicious detail. The silence was deafening. The backyard, which moments before had been filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation, was now a tense, frozen tableau. My parents' friends, their relatives, everyone was staring at them, their expressions a mix of confusion and silent judgment. They had all heard the story of their poor, unfortunate son for years, and now the truth, so simple and so undeniable, was laid bare for everyone to see. My father's face was beet red, a mixture of anger and humiliation. My mother's eyes were wide with a silent, pleading panic, as if she was begging me to take back what I had just said. Mark, the family friend, was the first to speak. "Is this true, Robert?" he asked my father, his voice low and serious. My father just stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. He looked from me to my mother, as if he was waiting for her to come up with a lie, a plausible excuse, anything to save them from this public humiliation. But there was nothing she could say. The truth was standing there, right there, in the form of my well-dressed self, pointing at the beautifully renovated house next door. The house with a brand new roof, new windows, and a fresh coat of paint. The house that belonged to me, the homeless son. Slowly, the conversations started to pick up again, but this time they were different. Whispers, quiet comments, and confused looks were exchanged. People started to put the pieces together. The story my parents had been telling for years, the one they had used to garner sympathy and attention, was nothing more than a cruel fabrication.
They were not the caring, worried parents. They were the liars, the ones who had humiliated their own son for their own twisted satisfaction. The dynamic of the entire barbecue had shifted. My parents were no longer the hosts, the center of attention. They were now the spectacle, the objects of silent scrutiny and judgment. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. The truth had done all the work for me. I simply stood there, a quiet observer of the chaos I had just unleashed. My father finally pulled me aside, his voice a low, furious whisper. "How could you do this to us?" he hissed. "You've humiliated us in front of everyone." I looked at him, and for the first time I felt no anger, no resentment, only a quiet, profound sadness. "I didn't do this, Dad," I said, my voice calm. "You did. You started a lie, and I just ended it." He had no response. The look on his face was one of defeat, a painful recognition that all his years of manipulation had finally caught up to him. My mother approached me next, her eyes glistening with tears. "Why would you say such a thing?" she pleaded. "Do you know what this looks like?" I looked at her, and I saw the true face of her love. It wasn't about me, it was about her reputation. It was about what other people thought. "It looks like the truth, Mom," I said softly. "It looks like a son who got tired of being a lie." She just shook her head, unable to comprehend that my well-being was more important than her social standing. For them, it was always about appearances, about what others saw, not about what was real. I decided to leave. I had made my point, and there was nothing else to say. As I walked out, I saw my sister Sarah standing in the corner. She looked at me, a look of silent admiration and regret in her eyes. I gave her a small nod, a silent acknowledgement, and walked out the door. The feeling I had was not of triumph or revenge. It was a sense of profound relief, a feeling of finally being seen, of finally being heard, of finally being myself without the weight of their lies. I was free, and they were left to deal with the consequences of their own making.
Let me tell you about this moment when everything seemed to glow with possibility. The way I felt, my heart racing, my breath quickening, was unlike anything I'd known before. I'm going to share this with you just as it happened, in every vivid detail, letting the warmth of my voice wrap around you, making you feel like you're right there beside me. Imagine this as a story told by candlelight, a secret shared between friends or lovers, or even just with yourself. My tone is warm, friendly, almost conspiratorial. I want you to feel the excitement building as I speak, to sense the thrill in every word. I'll read the entire text, not missing a single detail, letting the emotions rise and fall, just like the rhythm of a confession. So listen closely. Let me take you on this journey, step by step, moment by moment. I'll keep my voice soft and inviting, but beneath it all, you'll hear the excitement, the kind that makes your pulse quicken and your imagination run wild. This is my confession, my story, and I'm sharing it with you, completely and honestly, in every delicious detail. The aftermath of that day was just as I had imagined. The phone calls and texts started coming in almost immediately, but not from my parents. They were from my relatives and family friends, all asking the same questions. Is it true? Why would they lie? What's going on? I answered them all with a simple, honest truth. I told them that I had been doing well, that I had a successful business, and that my parents had chosen to tell a different story for reasons I couldn't understand. I didn't add any extra drama or embellishment. I simply stated the facts. The truth, in its raw, unadorned form, was more powerful than any lie they could have ever come up with. My parents tried to salvage their reputation, but it was a losing battle.
They tried to tell people that I was just being dramatic, that I had misunderstood them. But their story didn't hold up. People saw the house next door, they saw my car in the driveway, and they saw the truth for what it was. The neighbors, who had lived on that street for years, knew my parents' patterns, their need for control, and their penchant for gossip. They finally had an explanation for their odd behavior and their constant need to talk about their poor son. The entire community now saw them for who they really were. The quiet, unspoken fallout was the worst for them. The invitations to parties and social events dwindled. Their friends stopped calling as much. The sympathy they had so craved was now replaced by a cold distance. The lie they had built to elevate themselves had now become their prison. They were trapped in their own making, in a social isolation they had so carefully engineered for me, but which had now boomeranged back to them. They were no longer the doting, worried parents. They were now the subjects of gossip, the ones people talked about behind closed doors. They had lost their most valuable asset, their reputation. My sister Sarah was the only one who seemed to understand. She called me a few weeks after the barbecue, her voice soft and full of emotion. She said, "I'm so sorry. I knew they were lying, but I never thought they'd go that far. I'm so proud of you. You did what I never had the courage to do." We talked for hours, catching up on everything. It was the first time in our lives that we had a real, honest conversation. The truth had not only set me free, it had also started to heal the chasm between us. Our relationship, which had been so fractured by years of parental manipulation, was now finally starting to mend. A few months ago, my parents came over to my house. They didn't call, they didn't announce their visit, they just showed up at the door. I opened it, and they were just standing there, looking lost. My mother had tears in her eyes. She said, "We just wanted to see your new place." Her voice was small and shaky. I let them in. They walked around in silence, looking at the new furniture, the renovated kitchen, the backyard. They didn't say anything, but I could see the truth in their eyes. They saw the home I had built, not just with money, but with resilience, hard work, and my own quiet strength. They saw the son they had tried to break, now standing tall on his own 2 feet. They never apologized. They never acknowledged their lie. They just stood there. Their silence was a different kind of apology, a silent recognition of everything they had done wrong. They had spent years trying to diminish me, to make me a failure, and I had succeeded in spite of them, right next door. Their greatest fear was not that I would fail, but that I would succeed without them. And that, I realized, was the ultimate revenge.
Let me tell you about this moment when everything seemed to glow with possibility. The way I felt, my heart racing, my breath quickening, was unlike anything I'd known before. I'm going to share this with you just as it happened, in every vivid detail, letting the warmth of my voice wrap around you, making you feel like you're right there beside me. Imagine this is a story told by candlelight, a secret shared between friends, or lovers, or even just with yourself. My tone is warm, friendly, almost conspiratorial. I want you to feel the excitement building as I speak, to sense the thrill in every word. I'll read the entire text, not missing a single detail, letting the emotions rise and fall, just like the rhythm of a confession. So listen closely. Let me take you on this journey, step by step, moment by moment. I'll keep my voice soft and inviting, but beneath it all, you'll hear the excitement, the kind that makes your pulse quicken and your imagination run wild. This is my confession, my story, and I'm sharing it with you, completely and honestly, in every delicious detail. The silence that now exists between us is different. It's no longer the silence of disappointment or judgment. It's the silence of a truth that has been fully revealed.
They come over sometimes, unannounced, and just sit in my living room, drinking the coffee I offer them, looking at the walls and at me. They never say much, but their eyes are a different kind of conversation. They see the home I've made, the life I've built, and they know without a single word being said that everything they've ever believed about me was a lie. And in that silent space, there is a painful kind of peace. I've learned that some people can't be reasoned with, can't be confronted with logic or facts. Their reality is so deeply ingrained in their minds that any truth that challenges it is simply discarded. My parents needed me to be a failure to make their lives make sense, to justify their favoritism, their choices, and their own insecurities. And when I stopped being that person, they didn't know what to do. Their old narrative fell apart, and they were left with a void, a silent space filled with their own shame and regret. They didn't want a successful son. They wanted a son who needed them, a son who would confirm their belief that they were always right. This journey has taught me so much about the nature of family and the complex, often painful ways we relate to one another. I used to think that a family was a team, a group of people who would always have your back. But I've learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to be your biggest supporters are the ones who are quietly working against you. And you can't change them. You can only change how you react to them and how you build your own life in spite of them. My life is not a revenge story. It's a story about resilience, about building your own narrative, about refusing to let someone else's opinion of you define who you are. The house next door is more than just a house. It's a monument to my freedom, a physical manifestation of my refusal to be a victim. It's a symbol of my silent victory, a reminder that the truth always finds a way to reveal itself, even when it's hidden in plain sight. I've forgiven them, not for them, but for me. Forgiveness is not about condoning their actions. It's about releasing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. It's about letting go of the past so you can move forward, free and unburdened. They will always be my parents, and I will always be their son, but our relationship will forever be defined by the quiet space between their lie and my truth. And in that space, there is a quiet, powerful understanding that has finally brought me peace. I am no longer the black sheep. I am no longer the failure. I am simply me, living in a house I built with my own hands, right next door to the people who never thought I could. And in the quiet moments, when the sun sets and the lights of the two houses glow in the dark, I look at my home and I know that I am finally, truly home.
I want you to imagine this as a confession, something told in secret, with a hint of excitement and anticipation. Picture me leaning in close, my voice low and inviting, as I recount this experience for you. Let me tell you about this moment, when everything seemed to glow with possibility. The way I felt, my heart racing, my breath quickening, was unlike anything I'd known before. I'm going to share this with you just as it happened, in every vivid detail, letting the warmth of my voice wrap around you, making you feel like you're right there beside me. Imagine this as a story told at candlelight, a secret shared between friends or lovers, or even just with yourself. My tone is warm, friendly, almost conspiratorial. I want you to feel the excitement building as I speak, to sense the thrill in every word. I'll read the entire text, not missing a single detail, letting the emotions rise and fall, just like the rhythm of a confession. So listen closely. Let me take you on this journey step by step, moment by moment. I'll keep my voice soft and inviting, but beneath it all you'll hear the excitement, the kind that makes your pulse quicken and your imagination run wild. This is my confession, my story, and I'm sharing it with you completely and honestly in every delicious detail. So what is the lesson of this story? It's not about revenge, as you might think.
It's about the silent war we fight to claim our own truth. It's about how sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not to argue, not to scream, but to simply live your life authentically, so authentically that the lies people tell about you become meaningless, and eventually they just collapse under their own weight. This story is a whisper that tells us that our purpose isn't to convince others of our worth, but to simply be worthy, in silence and with integrity, because the ones who truly matter will always see it, and those who don't will eventually be left behind in the ruins of their own illusions. The truth is a force of nature, like water finding its way through rock. You can try to block it, you can try to contain it, but in the end it will always find a way to flow, to reveal the hidden landscapes underneath. This story is an invitation to look at your own life and ask yourself, what truth are you holding back? What silent victory are you building that no one else can see? Sometimes the greatest act of love we can offer ourselves is to simply live our truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable, because the liberation you feel when you finally stand in your own light is worth more than any approval you could ever receive. The universe always conspires to reveal what is real. It's not a question of if, but of when. And the journey from someone else's lie to your own truth is the most sacred journey of all. So, if this story resonated with you, if it sparked a flicker of recognition within your soul, I invite you to join our community of seekers, of truth-tellers, of quiet builders. Don't be a spectator to your own life. Subscribe to this channel, and together we can continue to explore the hidden lessons that lie beneath the surface of every real-life story. Let's make this journey together, one story at a time.